Welcome to Wisdom of the Bible channel. Restraints, where riches could satisfy any craving, and indulgence was the only law. Endless parties, shameless revelries, and a level of luxury so extreme that even the rulers of mighty realms envied it. In Sodom and Gomorrah, all boundaries vanished, and ethics meant nothing, as people craved only pleasure and authority. Yet behind the glittering mansions, the huge shrines, and assurances of carefree existence loomed a chilling truth. Innocent blood darkened unholy altars, children were offered in gruesome rites, and anyone without wealth was tossed aside like garbage, left to decay in the alleys under cruel indifference. Perversion was currency, and decaying values were praised. Then the sky opened one day, flames rained down, and everything turned to cinders. What truly went on in these prohibited territories? What was it like to dwell in a place with no sense of right or wrong? And most critically, was it really just divine judgment that erased Sodom and Gomorrah? Or could something even darker be hidden in this account? Brace yourself to learn the forgotten truth, a story that defies easy explanations and unveils the hidden shadows of Sodom and Gomorrah. Thus was existence in Sodom and Gomorrah, the most tainted cities in history. Imagine strolling through streets where gold flashed in the daylight, and abundance flowed like an endless stream. The air was heavy with the scent of roasting meats and hot bread, while shrewd traders bartered rare spices from distant realms. We came from all directions, from Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Eastern kingdoms, all enticed by the promise of limitless affluence. Sodom was a trading haven, its squares vibrant and packed with lavish stalls, selling tunics embroidered in gold to grandees who never knew hunger. Servants lugged jars of oil and exotic wines, while the ruling elite basked in opulence without pausing to wonder where it all came from. Then there was Gomorrah, Sodom's counterpart, an even more flamboyant hub where desire dictated law and extravagance was a daily pursuit. Seated in a fertile plain near the Dead Sea, these two sparkled like jewels in the midst of barren lands. Farms all around produced golden wheat, barley, and lush fruit, feeding both their own people and a constant stream of caravans spanning continents. Nothing appeared able to halt this golden era. Yet where abundance reigns, arrogance follows, and unbridled wealth carries consequences that go unnoticed until it's too late. Having more than they needed, men became avaricious. Having no limits on their power, they turned merciless. The roads teemed with riches. Jewelers crafted fine ornaments, goldsmiths displayed glimmering gold and silver, and merchants vied for business, offering exotic fabrics and spices from distant ports. For those with means, life in Sodom felt like genuine paradise. They resided in houses built from polished stone, trimmed with rare fabrics, while the mightiest dwelled in grand palaces, emblems of their pride and haughtiness. The city center roared with magnificence. Sumptuous banquets unfolded nightly, drawing nobles and famed traders who flaunted their fortunes shamelessly. Wine poured without pause, and the tables overflowed with lavish dishes in amounts that could feed a kingdom for days. Excess was accepted, while restraint was long forgotten. But hidden beyond the festivals and tunes, an unspoken truth loomed. While the elite drowned themselves in endless revelry, the impoverished starved openly in the streets. Whole families withered beneath the uncaring eyes of those who had far more than they would ever consume. Asking for mercy, a lost cause. In Sodom, pity was mocked, and compassion was met with scorn. Greed was not restricted to commerce. It flooded the entire community. Rigged scales tricked buyers, sellers demanded unjust costs without shame, and the affluent drove laborers to exhaustion. A person who fell into monetary ruin could be sold off as a slave to settle what they owed. Fairness? It was merely a show staged by those with the biggest purses, leaving the needy with no chance. For anyone with wealth, Sodom was a never-ending indulgence. For the destitute, it was torment in the flesh. But these cities, believing themselves above repercussions, committed the ultimate folly by presuming they would never answer for their indulgence. Sodom and Gomorrah's doom was inevitable, and when the appointed hour arrived, their downfall was sudden, harsh, and absolute. What follows may be precisely what you should hear. The biblical cities of Sodom and Gomorrah stand as enduring images of depravity, immorality, and depraved power. They represent the essence of what, according to the holy text, God despises most. In the Hebrew Bible, in Aramaic writings, and throughout the Abrahamic faiths, these sites are held up as evidence of the divine devastation set upon those who spurned principles of ethics and righteousness. The tale of Sodom and Gomorrah parallels the narrative of the flood in Genesis, both showcasing God's fury at human wickedness. In Genesis 19, from verse 1 through 28, the calamity of these cities is recounted, and the prophets' books and the New Testament recall them as ultimate symbols of corrupt behavior and God's exacting justice. Even the Quran presents its own perspective on these doomed locations, cementing their place in our collective moral conscience. Yet the story of Sodom and Gomorrah did not begin with their downfall. Before their cataclysm, they were already ensnared in strife and intrigue. In the old accounts, Sodom belonged to the 5 cities of the plain, documented in Genesis 13:12 and Genesis 19:29. These communities, in a challenge against Chedorlaomer, the powerful king of Elam to whom they owed allegiance, engaged in the Battle of Siddim. They lost, and many were captured, including Lot, the nephew of Abraham. But Abraham would not remain passive. He assembled his group, confronted the foe, and freed Lot, delivering the cities. In spite of this rescue, Sodom and Gomorrah plummeted deeper into depravity. That was when God chose to destroy them entirely. But first, he confided his plan to Abraham. There follows one of Scripture's most striking dialogues. Abraham, aware of the fate ahead, dares to question God. Will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Genesis 18:23. Thus begins a rare negotiation. Abraham pleads that if there are 50 upright people, the city should be spared. God concedes. Abraham lowers the count to 40. God agrees. He reduces it further to 30, then 20, and eventually 10. But not even 10 virtuous souls could be located among the shameless crowds of Sodom and Gomorrah. Their fate was set. Then fire erupted from the sky. The divine sentence was unwavering and conclusive. Amid the blazing inferno, only one man and his family survived. Lot, the lone just individual found. He escaped the carnage, yet his wife looked back and was turned to a statue of salt, a timeless image of disregard for divine warnings and longing for a doomed existence. The account of Sodom and Gomorrah goes beyond a mere biblical episode. It stands as an alarm, a grim sign that even the most flourishing societies can collapse when they succumb to corruption, pride, and moral rot. Through the ages, it is hard to find places with such a weight of symbolism as Sodom. Its name, bound to the Genesis tale, has endured and is now linked to immorality and downfall. But where does the name Sodom come from? Is it purely shaped by the holy text, or is there a more layered linguistic root? The word's origin remains clouded by gaps and theories. Many biblical names connect neatly to Hebrew, but Sodom's exact root is unclear in Hebrew or Phoenician. Scholars suggest a possible link to an external tongue, with one prevalent argument tying it to the Assyrian word sadu, signifying a lowland or flat area. This idea holds weight upon studying the terrain. According to Scripture, Sodom was situated in a fertile plain near the modern Dead Sea. If the city's name derived from Assyrian, it likely pointed to its environment, not to its people's moral direction. But while the name may have begun as a nod to topography, it was the text of Genesis that made Sodom a timeless symbol of depravity and sin. The most famous story tied to the city concerns Lot, his household, and the 2 angels that God dispatched to rescue them before the looming devastation. In Genesis 19, these angels appear at Lot's residence at night. Soon after, a swarm of local men gathers and demands that the strangers come out so they can know them, which is often read as a sexual intent. The episode worsens when Lot, in a desperate bid to save the angels, proposes his own daughters in their place. The men of Sodom refuse and keep demanding the outsiders. This sealed the city's image as a place of utter wickedness, where the inhabitants sank into behaviors considered vile by Jewish and Christian codes. From this saga emerged the term sodomy, which through history has often referred to illicit acts, primarily involving same-sex relations. Over time, the word took on new layers, retaining its ties to the idea of forbidden urges. It's vital to note this link evolved within religious and cultural frames, shaping how Sodom would be remembered. The city's name, if indeed drawn from the Assyrian Sadu, had no original moral burden, but merely reflected its setting. Gomorrah, for its part, has a Semitic-derived name, believed to imply something akin to depth or bounty of water, a meaning tragically lost when destruction struck. But did fire and burning sulfur alone swallow these cities? Could there have been something deeper, linked to sinister forces or cursed entities that mingled among people? For countless centuries, Sodom and Gomorrah have embodied indulgence, ruled by unrestrained lust. Ancient texts and rabbinic lore describe it as a site where prostitution was legitimized, debauchery never ceased, and marriage vows were ridiculed. Still, few realize that behind this boundless licentiousness, a dark power reigned: Asmodeus. For those who do not know, Asmodeus, also named Ashmedai, is far more than just a figure. In certain apocryphal and mystical writings, he is portrayed as the demon king of lust, an overlord of temptation and carnal cravings. His dominion extends to betrayal, unfaithfulness, divorce, and houses of vice, and anyone who fell prey to his allure became trapped in endless hedonism. Within Sodom and Gomorrah, Asmodeus was revered as a god. Some ancient sources assert that his cult was veiled, hidden beneath celebrations that seemed common, but masked blood rites and fiendish covenants. Others propose that he made himself known through a ruling priest-king who staged ceremonies brimming with vice and promiscuity. When destruction was pronounced, the upright Lot was told to flee, bringing along his wife and daughters. Yet one question has always caused unease. Why did Lot's wife glance back? The standard explanation is that her curiosity or regret drove her, but considering the city's sinfulness and the ties she may have formed to its rites, could her attachment have been more profound? Perhaps her reluctance stemmed from more than just a nostalgic tug. It is possible she longed for the illicit thrills that Sodom and Gomorrah offered. The memory of lavish celebrations, boundless pleasure, hidden spectacles, and irresistible allure might have echoed louder than her devotion. By looking back, she revealed a heart still bound to that decadent world. Then came the penalty. She became a pillar of salt, a permanent reminder of someone unable to break free from that vortex of ruin. The Bible recounts that soon after Sodom's downfall, Lot's wife was gone. She was lost because she turned around, violating the divine order and becoming a salt statue. Lot's daughters, who did not look back at that fateful moment, later ended up repeating Sodom's patterns. Their actions were a reflection of all that corrupted the destroyed city. Indeed, they committed deeds that mirrored Sodom's decaying morals. Scripture states that the two daughters made their father drunk and had relations with him, aiming to preserve his bloodline. The two sons born of this incest, Moab and Ben-Ami, became fathers to the Moabites and Ammonites. While these groups were part of the Semitic family, they did not directly descend from Canaan. Sodom and Gomorrah gained notoriety for numerous crimes, including widespread lust, shameless behavior, and sexual unions outside divine boundaries. Yet these were not their only transgressions. Their depravity extended to cruelty and savage injustice. Therefore, God unleashed severe judgment, fully eradicating them. Looking for historical proof of Sodom and Gomorrah's demise, certain theories hint that a catastrophic natural event may have been God's chosen tool. Some researchers claim that the Dead Sea region might have been rocked by an earthquake around 1900 BC, releasing burning gases and downpours of sulfur. The New Testament speaks of this account as well. The brief letter of Jude, verses 6 and 7, issues a caution about the sins of Sodom and Gomorrah, drawing parallels to the rebellious angels who mingled with human women. The text reads, "Remember the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling. These he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. Remember Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns, who like them gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire." This passage underscores the sober warning about the cost of sin and scorning God's laws. Hence, Sodom and Gomorrah are ultimate illustrations of divine retribution. I appreciate everyone who stayed until the end. May God watch over you, and I will see you again soon.